Well, how are we doing, all you lovely people? It was hang out with you guys tonight or play some Red Dead Redemption 2. And I decided I'd rather hang out with you guys. um, if you're like, how has he not got into Red Dead Redemption 2 yet? I kind of did, but you got to keep in mind that game came out in like 2015, 2016, 2019. We got to look this up. I started producing music and going all in on music production after I graduated high school. I never actually really got serious about it until a couple years later. When did Red Dead Redemption 2 come out? And yeah, looks like October 26th, 2018. So that's about the time that I started getting pretty serious. My wife purchased this game for me. And on Xbox One, the Xbox One S, and I played through like maybe an hour or so of it, but I was so dedicated on trying to build up my music business that I just kind of didn't play it. And now that I produce music full time, and this is like literally all I do, like all day, every day, and it's amazing. I still just like to talk about music production. Like I'm just so obsessed with it. So yeah, I mean, I am playing Red Dead Redemption 2. It's amazing. I'm having a good time with it. By all means, it's great. I love it. But I also would rather hang out with you guys. So also, Russ, my guy, good to see you here. We're gonna talk and chat tonight. I got some talking points that I kind of want to bring up. I've been listening to some podcasts with specifically Zach Cervini, and he had some pretty interesting takes, and I actually really enjoyed some of his takes, and I wanted to share some of that. If you don't know who Zach Cervini is, the guy is absolutely insane. He has had, I'm talking like hit after hit under his belt, responsible for All Time Low, Good Charlotte, 5 Seconds of Summer, Blink-182, and this was a year ago. I mean, like, just within the last year, he's done so much more at this point in time. It's absolutely insane. The guy's great, but he has this hot take, and I have to share this because there is this. I'll get into it. There's a lot. I'm drinking a nice cold Diet Coke tonight, but you got to dump it into a mason jar and put ice with it because that is the preferred way of drinking a Diet Coke. Gotta have it that way. So, I do have to say this, though. Most producers are obsessing over speakers and their headphones and making sure that their stuff sounds as best as it possibly can. And I get it. I'm in the same boat. I want to make sure that my stuff sounds great. I want to listen to music the way it was intended. But Zach Cervini would actually say something slightly different. He has this hot take on this podcast that I was listening to from Master Your Mix, episode 204. And if you don't know who Zach Cervini is, the guy's got some pretty incredible stuff under his belt. If you listen to modern rock, metalcore, you're going to hear some of his stuff. Blink-182, All Time Low, Good Charlotte, 5 Seconds of Summer. I think the latest poppy stuff he's done, there's just so much that Zach Cervini has done that is just extremely impressive. And he has this hot take right around here at like minute 4. And I had to share this, and I kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit.
Out Mac laptop, I just like took the plunge and I set it up in my bedroom, and I kind of, over the last couple months, I've developed a system where I mix on my laptop through with my UAD, my UAD Apollo Twin X, and I mix on these Sennheiser HD 600 headphones and literally Apple earbuds. And
Wow.
those are my two main frames of reference for mixing. And then I'll check it in the car, I'll drive to the studio, I'll check it on the Barefoots, like I'll check it on my AirPods, a bunch of places, but I've been mixing 95 to 100% on headphones and 60 to 70% on Apple AirPods and Apple earbuds lately.
Wow.
So yeah, so my process has changed a lot the last couple of months, and honestly, I've never been happier with my mixes, and people have never been happier with my mixes. So it's kind of crazy.
That's so
Absolutely insane. Now, there's... He is a Grammy-nominated producer. I think maybe he's even won some Grammys at this point in time now. And he is mixing a significant amount of his stuff on Apple AirPods, which just blows my mind. And so it kind of leads me down a rabbit hole, which, by the way, this is not a cheap gear is better kind of thing. He obviously says that he references his stuff on Barefoot speakers, which, by the way, like, Barefoot. Like, stuff ain't cheap, my guy. It's not that we're advocating for cheaper equipment. It's just the fact that we're advocating for making sure that our mixes translate above all else in the consumer devices, because people aren't going to listen to your music on multi-$1,000 Barefoot monitors. I mean, this 7.1 immersive audio studio monitor system, people would kill for this. I would love to have this. Almost $19,000 to get this set up. And then, of course, you have to have a room that's actually tuned for it. Most people, almost everyone, is not going to have access to this kind of technology. And so it makes no sense, in my opinion, and also in Zach's opinion as well, to optimize your mix for the best possible system. You want to optimize your mix for the consumer device. If your mix sounds great on a great system, well, shocker, almost everything sounds great on a great system. That's just the way life works. When you can get a mix to sound great on consumer-grade devices, it can really just blow everybody away. If it sounds great on a pair of Apple AirPods, it's going to sound great on these bad boys over here. And so I kind of want to talk about a couple things here, which is specifically about time domain and how other consumer grade devices actually handle sound, and why I think it's actually extremely important to not just reference your mix on consumer grade devices, but actually do some of your mixing on consumer grade devices, a lot like Zach Cervini is talking about in this podcast here. So I do need to pull up a couple things here. There's a thing called time domain. And if you don't know how this actually works, time domain basically means that when you press stop on your music, your speakers still will kind of reverberate a little bit. Your speakers will move in and out when you are trying to replicate some sort of sound through your speakers, right? We all know that speakers shake a little bit, they create some wiggly air, and that creates the sound. And in fact, it looks a lot like this. This is the time domain of a speaker. Now, time domain means when I stop, it then slows itself down. Actually, let me go ahead and make this a lot cleaner for you guys. Copy image. Let's pull this over into Paint. How about that? Dude, VSX is great, man. Real Noise says I use old VSX and love it. I still use old VSX. I have not got their new VSX. I don't think that it's... I don't think it makes that much of a difference. I don't know. The old VSX is so good, I just don't think the new one makes that much of a difference. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, nevertheless. So yeah, this is time domain. And time domain basically means that this is, so over here is the low frequencies, over here is the high frequencies. So we have low frequencies here, we have high frequencies over here. We have amount of decibels, so the amount of volume up and down over here. And then we have the amount of time on this bar here. So we can see that there's a lot of time that actually manages to continue to stay into a few milliseconds, right? And so we know that the low end actually has a tough time clamping itself down. So on a really good set of speakers, this time domain might actually be a lot less, but on standard speakers and especially consumer grade devices, consumer grade AirPods and speakers and things like that, the time domain is actually going to trail into one another. So when you press stop, it's going to continue to play some of the low end for at least a few milliseconds going in. Now, you're probably wondering, oh, well, it doesn't matter if people are starting and stopping my song. Well, yeah, kinda, other than the fact that the stuff that happened in the low end a few milliseconds ago is still continuing on right now. And so if you have a note that happened 4, 5, 6, 10, 50 milliseconds ago, and it's still reverberating in the low end, well, then your low end just became an absolute disaster, an absolute nightmare when you have like dissonance, right? Like you go from an F sharp to a G. Well, you just created a whole bunch of dissonance because it's still trying to replicate that F sharp while it's trying to now replicate that G, right? You kind of getting the point? And so that's creating a lot of like flubbiness and a lot of nonsense going on in the low end. And this is kind of a problem. Now, with that being said, I do want to talk about the NS10s. The NS10s are something that Every time I think of the NS10s, I think of the S10. You guys remember that? Remember that truck, the S10 Chevy, or is it just me? I grew up on the country. I grew up on a farm, and the S10 was like the truck that everybody went for. Like it was the S10 or the Ranger. That was like your first truck, everybody's first vehicle. The thing was a piece of crap. It ran like trash, and it just. But you know what? You know what? It didn't die. It just didn't die, you know? So every time I think of the NS10s, I think of the S10s, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about the S10s here. The S10s are these speakers, and you see them commonly in studios all over the place. And one of the main reasons you see these speakers all the time is because the NS10s, their time domain is ridiculously short. Let me pull up a graph here of what the actual NS10 time domain looks like, right? So let me go ahead. I'm going to pull this over here. So if you actually take a look, you look at this. This time domain is actually extremely short for the Yamaha NS10s. Like there's some super, super, super sub low content down here, right? But it's really short, especially in comparison to other grade speakers like these, right? So other speakers, especially consumer grade devices, there's going to be some time domain that actually happens there. And so the NS10s are actually a lot tighter. And so a lot of people, when I bring this up to students, a lot of my students are like, well, then obviously I just need to go buy the NS10s. Well, yeah. But other than the fact that your consumers, the people that are going to listen to your music are going to own the NS10s, they're listening on a pair of Apple AirPods, or they're listening on their phone. They're listening to your music on consumer grade devices. So why in the world would you optimize your music for anything other than consumer grade devices? Which is exactly what Zach Cervini is talking about. Where is it at? Somewhere over here. Zach Cervini was talking about it somewhere. I have like 17,000 tabs opened up. Yeah, what Zach Cervini was talking about here. You want to optimize your stuff for consumer grade devices. So when you choose to go test your mix on things, make sure that you're testing your mixes on your car, on speakers that your consumers are probably going to listen to. The NS10s are a great speaker, don't get me wrong. And I think that like a lot of people could benefit from having them, but you got to keep in mind that just because you have top of the line gear doesn't mean that everybody else is going to have top of the line gear. You need to make sure that your mixes are tight and they're consistent and they translate from session to session, from this speaker to this speaker, from this car to the next car, no matter where you're at. I mean, Zach Cervini has won Grammys, and he's mentioning that he's doing like 60 to 70% of his mixes inside of a pair of Apple AirPods with his laptop, and then he checks it on more high quality speakers to make sure that nothing kind of falls through the cracks. And I think that we have it backwards. I think a lot of people will start to try, at least in my experience, what they're doing is they are trying to mix backwards. People will, let me go ahead and grab a marker here. People are grabbing they're grabbing a pair of AirPods. We'll just say those are AirPods. And then they are checking their mix in a pair of Apple AirPods. When in all reality, you might be better fit actually doing the majority of your mix in the Apple AirPods and then checking your mix in your, JBLs or your Rockets or something else. Now, once again, if you have a set of JBL speakers or a set of Rocket speakers like the KRKs, those are more consumer grade monitors. So people that care about the high fidelity of music will still be able to hear that. So I just want to make sure that I'm not throwing out the people that do care about the high quality, high fidelity side of music. There are people out there that spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, including myself, by the way, to make sure that we can listen to music at the highest quality. It's one of my favorite benefits of Tidal. If you guys don't know what Tidal is it was the first, and according to my understanding, the only streaming service with true high fidelity sound. The high fidelity that you get from Apple Music now has been able to match this, but even Spotify's true lossless is still only, I believe, 44.124-bit, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look that up. Spotify lossless audio specs. Okay, yeah, 24-bit 44.1. So Spotify is still putting out a 24-bit 44.1, but if we go to actually Tidal does up to 24-bit 192 kilohertz, which is actually ridiculous. And Apple Music is, I think, somewhat similar, 24-bit 48. So slightly better than Spotify. So Tidal Music has better sound quality. Now, once again, that assumes that the artist recorded at something more than 24-bit 48 kilohertz. Most of the time, I'm doing everything at 24-bit 48 kilohertz. That's just the way it works. So if you have Apple Music, you're pretty much hearing exactly what I was hearing when I was rendering the session out for the artist. So there's that. But yeah, just wanted to I wanted to bring this up because I think people over worry, or I think people just overthink it. They want to make sure that their room sounds the best and their speakers sound the best, when in all reality, your consumer, the person that is listening to your music, is not going to listen to it, inside of the DAW and be able to solo all of this stuff and be able to listen to exactly the stuff that you were working on. The only thing they're going to listen to is the final product, and they're going to listen to it in a pair of $100, $200 Apple AirPods, if you're lucky, right? If you're not lucky, they're going to listen to it in a pair of $5 like Dollar General Apple Apple AirPods. They're going to listen to it in a pair of like $5 AirPods or whatever, like the AirPod knockoffs and stuff like that from Dollar General, right? I'm sure we've all experienced that. We're like, you listen to your music in the worst environment possible, and you're like, this is bad. This is really bad. It's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. So anyway, just wanted to, I wanted to bring that up. I feel like this is a really good talking point. I want to bring that up. I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? We are live. I know that I keep talking like I'm not live, but we are live. C-Dub47 says, love this discussion. Super cool. Awesome. Craig Candor says, any tips for adding texture to thin sounding instrumentals? Is adding noise a thing? Bro, adding noise is absolutely a thing. My guy. Dude, adding noise is awesome. I'll give you a great example. During a breakdown, I love adding noise, specifically like during a metal breakdown. Let's go ahead and press play. Yeah, this is sounding dope already, but I do like adding a bit of noise. So I'm going to go over here to my files. And what I'll do is I have, you can see atmospheric. I already have this actually already open because I use this so often. Specifically Demon Factory is one. I've been using the Cyber Metal Production Pack from Drumforge recently, which is stupid good. I mean, it's been around for a while, but my gosh, like, it just never leaves any of the songs that I've been doing for the last 2 years. Like, of all the songs that I've done over the last 2 years, this sample pack has been on just about every bit of it, and it's awesome. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to drag this and drop this here, and this is a bit of noise here. I'm going to find this during the actual breakdown itself. So let's locate the breakdown. Let's go ahead. So that section. And I'm going to bring in a bit of noise here. Ridiculous. And then I'm going to take that noise out here, specifically. So let me go ahead and bring in, well, cut that specifically. And now we have this noise. And then the noise drops out. Now, another really cool thing that I've been doing with noise is I've been using this plugin called Chroma. And what it does is it allows you to take anything and pitch things to a specific key. So it'll find any of the resonant frequencies and really any of the frequencies in general, and it'll pitch it to a specific key. So let's go ahead and figure out what note is actually going on here. So I can't really remember what this song's key is in. And it looks like we're in the key of G minor. So we're doing a breakdown in the key of G. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find a G. So I'm going to go to Chroma. And because I don't really play piano, C, D, E, F, G. So there's a G. So I know that I can go G, and I can go ahead and I can bring in the color. And it'll actually take this note, and it'll add a note to it. It's crazy cool. I mean, like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely insane. I love it. It's crazy cool. Hold on just a second. My wife is calling me. Let's go ahead and play this song for a second. And let me answer the phone. Well, I mute my mic. For the love of all things holy. Thank you. Anyway, crisis averted. My wife called me because she's like, hey, I miss you. She's hanging out with some friends. She's on her way home. And I was like, well, I'm going to play Red Dead Redemption, or I'm going to hang out with you guys. And you guys are way cooler than Red Dead Redemption. So that's just how that works. And Red Dead Redemption is awesome. And that's a testament to how cool you guys are. So anyway, you guys should have audio now. All right. So anyway, Chroma is awesome. I love Chroma. This is a plugin called Chroma from Zenith Audio, and it's really awesome. Basically, you can take anything through it, drums, whatever you run through this plugin. You can then create notes based off of the frequencies that are there. It'll tune it to the nearest frequency that you tune it to. It's awesome. It's absolutely insane. It's actually made for EDM, which I find pretty interesting. But the fact that I use it in rock and metal is just funny. I love taking really interesting tools that are typically found in other genres and implementing it in the rock and metal space, which, by the way, if you do make rock and metal, I do have a few spots that are left opened. The doors close to my program tomorrow. It includes one-on-one coaching. It includes a community of other people just like you. It includes monthly calls with the entire group. If you are somebody you're looking for some help one-on-one, being able to get into a session, want somebody to get into a session with you, listen to your music, kind of figure out where you are, I do have spots available, but the doors are closing tomorrow. Links to that are down in the description below. Go ahead, apply, book your call, see if you're a good fit. I don't take on everybody. You do have to have some music that you've made, not necessarily released, but I need to hear Like I kind of have to hear the quality of the music that you're making before you're allowed to join the program. You can submit a link to the music that you're currently at, where you currently are now inside of the call booking link, and links to that are down in the description below. If you're interested in working with me directly, one-on-one, you can go ahead and book there. All right, let's get into the next thing. There's a couple things I want to talk about today, but that was one of the main ones, which was like the different speakers, making sure that we're actually optimizing our music for consumer grade devices. And then the second thing was the noise, which, by the way, dude, great question. Love that. Let's go ahead and let me bring up the next talking point that I wanted to bring up, which is channel strips. Do you guys use channel strip plugins? I'm genuinely curious. Channel strip plugins, let me just kind of give a quick rundown of what a channel strip plugin actually is. A channel strip plugin is any plugin that creates a channel strip like this, like an analog plugin, right? Like analog consoles would have compression and EQ and maybe some expansion and whatever else that was going on inside of the consoles, and there was essentially a strip. So, do you guys use them or not? I'm generally curious to know. The AMEC 990. Are you talking about, assuming you're talking about this one here. I've not used this one. It looks like it's emulating an SSL. If it has an expander, typically it's emulating an SSL. The knobs look very SSL-like. I've not used this one, man. My apologies for not knowing this. This is definitely for sure an SSL style. Brainworks console AMEC 990. At least something similar. I'm not sure. I've never used this plugin, but it looks very, very similar to any of the SSL channel strip plugins that I've used in the past. So yeah, cool stuff. Yeah, channel strip plugins are awesome. Yeah, I gotta reset my camera. Sorry about that. It just keeps glitching out. Let's go to screen only here. Let me switch it back over. I know I should get a new camera, but I really don't want to. Cameras aren't cheap. Just slap some EQ and compression on that bad boy. Oh yeah, I love it. All right, so yeah, channel strip plugins are something that I feel like are widely underused. And I think a lot of people should be using channel strip plugins more, not just for the sound quality that you get from channel strip plugins, but there's a few other hidden benefits that people don't talk about quite often. And I feel like people are just absolutely missing out on the benefits of channel strip plugins. This is Slate Digital Virtual Mix Rack, but I'm talking literally any virtual mix rack. I'm talking literally any sort of virtual channel strip at all. The Shep's Omni Channel is another great plugin as well. Of course, I have to double check my Wave stuff because I keep running into issues with Waves. I reinstalled the OS and reinstalled some stuff, and now it's gonna make me re-verify my license on this machine. But nevertheless, yeah, Shep's Omni Channel is another example of a channel strip plugin. Essentially, a channel strip plugin just basically means that when you have a classic analog console, there was a channel strip that happened on that console. So if we look up SSL console, I'm just gonna pull up some images here. So essentially, here you had EQ and compression and expansion in some cases, and all different types of options that you had here on a channel strip. So each one of these faders was a channel, and then you had a channel strip. And a lot of these you could actually replace. You could actually like take the screws out and you could pull those out and replace those, which is super interesting. There's a thing called the 500 series. Which is awesome. Like for anybody getting into analog gear, I absolutely love these things. They're really, really cool. But the 500 series basically is like these little tiny strips that you go in. And you can actually build out your own channel strips with essentially your own packaging. So you can kind of get this box, you can put all these in there, and then you can create your own channel strip in the analog realm, which, by the way, like, none of these are cheap. They're all extremely expensive. I mean, just the SSL 500 series is like, I think, at least $1,500 right here. Yeah, so you're looking at $1,600 just for this. And you can get the SSL G comp from Waves. Let me grab this from Waves. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. You can get it for like $30 as the plugin. Absolute insanity. And honestly, like, is there a difference? Yes. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say there's not a difference between the plugin version and the analog version, but I'm going to tell you the truth and say that I can't tell the difference. I can't hear the difference between whether it's the compressor on the plugin version or whether it's the $1,500 version. The $1,500 version, actual analog gear. I've done like shootouts and tests on both, and I just can't tell the difference. I can't. I can tell that there is a difference between the two, but I can't tell which one is which. They're so stinking close. And so because of that, I just think that the actual plugins just make sense. Now, of course, if you have the expendable budget and you want to actually get into that, I think that the 500 series are cool. I actually love doing that stuff. But that's all channel stripping. Channel strip basically just means that I have a channel strip. Signal comes in on one side, it comes out on the other, and the stuff that happens in between there is all pretty much laid out for me. We have some preamping, we have some gates, we have, EQ, compression. I believe this is some de-essing. So we have some really cool stuff that's going on all at once. One of my favorite plugins for this is Virtual Mix Rack. And the reason is because you can actually drag and drop, very similar to the 500 series, you can drag and drop an 1176 and an LA2A, for example, right? And we have like a Neve style EQ or an SSL style EQ, and we can just drag and drop those in all at once, which I actually think is really cool. I love these plugins for that reason, but also a few other hidden reasons that most people don't talk about. One is workflow. The workflow is ridiculously fast. You saw me just click and drag a couple of these plugins in, and there I go to I'm good, and there I go. I can grab a compressor here, I can go over and I can grab an SSL EQ, and immediately I can start grabbing some really good sounds. Get some compression in, get some EQ in, and I'm good to go. And it's all buried under one specific plugin here. All I gotta do is click on that one plugin and it opens up this entire thing. I can adjust my compression, I can adjust my EQ, all at once, right next to each other. I can reorder things if I want to, and it's all really simple to manage. Workflow is killer. The next thing I do have to talk about is sound quality. When somebody says analog gear does not sound as good as digital, they are lying to you. I will say that real analog gear sounds incredible, but this stuff sounds just as good. Like I was saying earlier with the G comp from Waves, I can tell that there's a difference between the two, but I can't tell which one's which. I can't tell which one is the plugin version versus which one is the actual real version. It's that good. And so analog gear does sound better because it doesn't just mangle audio in the same way that digital does. When you add a digital compressor, it's not really doing a whole lot. If I grab a digital compressor here, this is just going to compress the overall sound, and it's not going to do anything to the sound at all. It's just going to compress it digitally, and that's it. Nothing else, which is fine if that's what I'm looking for, which might be great for something like side chaining, for example, where you're not looking to add some characteristics. But if I want to add a compressor and I'm looking to also add in the characteristics of analog gear, you can add in a bit of saturation and some subtle nuances that the analog gear will actually create, like the 1176, for example. In fact, there's such different types of characteristics between the different types of analog gear that the 1176 has the Blackie version, also the Blue Strip vintage version as well. There's different versions, or yeah, different versions. There's different versions of the 1176, which I think is absolutely incredible. They're all the same compressor, but because the way that the compressor was made, even though very, very similar, the internals are just slightly different, it creates these different characteristics, which is why you have different options. Like the Blackie is just a fantastic option for bass. It really just does a really good job on bass overall. I love the vintage blue strip on vocals, for example. It just adds this really nice characteristics to those specific sounds, and they're known for that. A digital compressor is just a digital compressor. It doesn't do anything else. And so the second really good benefit of channel strip plugins is the fact that they emulate actual real analog gear, and it's something that is well worth diving into, in my opinion. Love channel strip plugins for that specific reason. So overall, you're getting faster and better mixes because you're using channel strip plugins. Love these things. Now, when should you not use channel strip plugins? Because there is a reason not to. Specifically, if you're trying to get really nice, solid rock and metal mixes, getting a general overall mix, you're going to be all right with using channel strip plugins. But if you're trying to do something super creative, like sidechain compression, I actually don't recommend using channel strip plugins because they have the same limitations that analog gear does. If I go here and I grab the dynamic section, and I go in and I grab like a standard 1176, you can see that the ratio is 4, 8, 12, and 20. And I have slight control over the attack and release, but if you know anything about the 1176, it doesn't have that much control over the attack and the release. So maybe I'll grab a different one instead. Maybe I want more control over the attack and release. Well, the LA2A doesn't even give you attack and release control options, and that's something that's crucial for sidechain compression, specifically in the EDM space or even in the rock and metal space where you're trying to get a kick. When the kick hits, the bass dips out of the way. And so using something that's a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more specific than that, these kind of plugins aren't going to work well. And what we could do is we can go ahead and we can add a standard digital one in, and it gives us that exact control over the envelope. We can control the attack, we can control the release, the input gain, the makeup. We can even add some side chaining filters, which allows you to just listen to a specific part of the frequency spectrum to trigger the compression, not just compress that specific section. That would be multi-band compression. This will just listen to a specific section to then trigger the compression to compress everything. That's the difference between the sidechain features there and multi-band compression. So these compressors are going to be a better fit in some more specific use cases than something that is like virtual mix rec, for example, where you actually are limited by the actual analog gear. This emulates analog gear really well, but it also emulates the limitations that it has. And so in some cases, you actually don't want to use these plugins. Overall, I think they are a great start to getting a great solid mix, and just throwing on a couple plugins, having one plugin inside of or having multiple plugins inside of this one plugin is really nice. I can go ahead and I can make multiple different adjustments to things. I can bring up some of the high end. I can bring up some compression. I could change the ratio, and it's all here. It's all really quick. It all feels very tactile, and it's not super visual. When I'm bringing up some of the high end, I'm listening. I'm not listening, or I'm not looking at the actual high end. Because sometimes this lies to us. We see this and this actually scares us. We're like, man, that looks like a whole lot, right? 10 dB. But if we actually come over here and go to Virtual Mix Rack and we were to boost this by 10 dB, that doesn't necessarily look nearly as scary. We're just turning a knob, and they do sound different. Turning up 10 dB at 7K does sound significantly different than over here with a digital EQ, or going around that 7K and turning up some of that high end as well. The digital does sound different than the analog, and in my opinion, I do think it sounds better in most use cases, but it also is not giving us so much visual that it's lying to us. We will look at these EQs, and we'll see all these movements that are going on, and we just think that, oh man, that looks like a lot. But when you have an analog style EQ here, you really actually can't see what's going on. You're just cranking knobs and you're listening. So there's a lot of benefits to these. They work really well. Overall, number one, they sound better. I really, truly believe, and I mean, you could fight me on this one. I think that analog gear sounds better than digital, but it's just we've gotten so good at emulating digital that I can't even tell the difference anymore. And so it's really nice to get that sound out of it. There's some nuances that the analog gear has. And so using channel strip plugins that emulate analog gear is really killer. And the second thing is workflow. The fact that you can go in here, you can reorder stuff. I can adjust EQ over here, and I can adjust compression over here with a few clicks of a button is killer. And it's all based inside of the one plugin. the one channel strip plugin. You can save presets based off of this. I have presets specifically for this microphone that's in front of me right now, and I was able to load that in really, really quickly. No matter what DAW I'm in, when I have that specific preset here inside of this plugin, whether I'm in Ableton or I'm in Studio Pro or I'm in Logic or any other place that I'm at, it loads in the specific preset that I already have. There are so many benefits to channel strip plugins, and I highly recommend that everybody at least has one in their arsenal that they use all the time, and you can probably start to use it as a go-to. All right. I want to answer some questions inside of the live chat here. Focusrite SC by Brainworks. Man, I got to get into more Brainworks stuff here. Focusrite SC. Nice. Yeah, Focusrite, by the way, like if you guys aren't aware, Focusrite actually, like, they still make interfaces in analog gear, but they kind of started in the analog gear space, which I think is really cool. And then they built these really nice interfaces. It's not like they just started making interfaces. So yeah, this is cool. Once again, channel strip plugins. I've not used this one specifically, or at least if I have, it may have been in a couple studios in a pinch. But specifically, I'm using the Sheps Omnichannel and I'm using Virtual Mix Rack. Those are the ones that I'm using quite often. Specifically, Virtual Mix Rack. There's just a lot of control there. I love it. Michael, yeah, man, I saw that email before I went live, and yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing that. Are you looking to, like, is that something you built and you're looking to share the kick and snare sample packs and stuff like that with other people, or like what is it, or you just like used it, you built it, you're using it for yourself, and you're just enjoying to share it with other people? I'm just curious to know what your main goal is with that, Michael. I see your name literally pop up all the time, so it's nice to see you in the email as well. Yeah, Russ, I use SSL UC1 along with VMR. Yeah, dude, VMR is the GOAT. Obviously, I'll live and die by that. UC1 SSL. Oh yeah. My bad. Yeah, dude, UCL is great. By the way, if you guys aren't aware, oh my goodness gracious, I can barely speak tonight. Okay, if you guys aren't aware, this is Solid State Logic UCL Advanced Plugin Controller. Basically, you can set this thing on your desk, you can press some buttons, tweak some knobs, and you kind of control a lot of metrics and a lot of different things here with this controller, which I think is kind of cool. So it creates this tactile feel to typically the digital space that we're working in. I love being on mouse and keyboard so much so. Like, I feel like taking my hands off of the mouse and keyboard to go adjust some things kind of gets annoying to me. I've tried these things and they are really cool and it is nice and like it does feel cool, but it doesn't feel as fast as being able to actually just get inside the DAW and make some really quick tweaks. Like check this out, right? So if I switch over to here, I can just hover over any metric, like any metric or any knob, and I can make adjustments using my scroll wheel, right? So I just hover over it and I use my scroll wheel. Up, down, up, down, up, down. It's just really cool. So I can come over here, I can rearrange this, I can make some adjustments here. I don't have to map anything out to a specific controller. It's all there, right? Because that's how they have it set up. I'm using the Logitech Hero G502, which has this button at the top that allows you to like unsnap the clickiness of it, so I can kind of like flick it and it looks really cool. I can like zoom in aggressively here, and I can just flick it up and flick it down and make these adjustments that kind of feel very much so knob like. And so I'll kind of do that, you know, make some adjustments there, make some adjustments here and here and here, and I don't have to select any knobs or do anything on a controller, which I like. It just kind of works really well. And I never have to leave my hand from, if my hand is on the keyboard, it never leaves the keyboard. And if my hand is on the mouse, it never leaves the mouse. That's the goal. And anytime I catch myself removing my hand from the keyboard or removing my hand from the mouse, that's a problem, and I need to fix that. I'm very adamant about my workflow. I'm super adamant about my workflow. I need to make sure that I am constant. Specifically, like I was playing Doom Eternal. Phenomenal game. Really love Doom Eternal. And one of the things that I noticed about it was the keyboard mapping was really crazy cool. The fact that like everything felt natural, right? Like you know V and C and Z and then your control and your alt and like all these other options. Like they basically max out like how much you can actually play in the game. Every button is being used in Doom Eternal, but it felt natural and I really liked it. And so as I was playing Doom Eternal, I remember being like, I could not play this if I was lifting my hand from my mouse and going over to my keyboard to make changes and going back to my mouse, and you know, vice versa. And so as I was going through and I was playing this, I realized that that was intentional. Like this wasn't some accident. Like they didn't just say, all right, we got to put some sort of shoot button somewhere in this game. Where are we going to put it? And they're like, you know, just put it over here. Like they weren't thinking that way. They were thinking, how do we maximize the amount and the efficiency of every single button so somebody can get in flow and stay in flow? Because that's the point of the game. When you get inside a video game and you're playing a video game, you kind of want to stay in flow, right? Kind of get into it. And so they optimize for this, and they actually really pay attention to this. Any of you guys that play video games, you probably heard of Crimson Desert, where they're talking about how Crimson Desert, like the mapping scheme was crazy, and people were kind of upset about it. And so they had like this really big patch that rolled out to kind of solve some of those issues inside of Crimson Desert, which I thought was interesting. So much like the controls that you do to control your DAW in and out is extremely important. If you want to stay in the flow, get in the flow and make music, it's super important. Whether you want to be the person like me where you're using your keyboard and your mouse and you're doing nothing else, or you want to use something like this, like, you know, your UC1 plugin controllers from SSL. Maybe you want to use a fader port, which I think are also really cool. Used one, they're awesome. Fader port from Presonus is pretty cool too. Like you can control some of this stuff, and lots of different options. Another big one is Raven. It's from Slate, I think. Yeah, the Slate Raven, which has like these screens that are super tactile. You can click on, or just touch. It's like these gigantic touch screens that allow you to control a lot of metrics inside of your DAW with just, you know, touching. Very much so like a console. If this is up your alley when it comes to workflow, by all means. I think workflow is extremely important, and to ignore the importance of workflow is to ignore the importance of the quality of the music that you're putting out. Imagine if I had bad workflow on my electric guitar here, right? That wouldn't, hang on. I gotta restart this again. This thing, every like half an hour, this thing just like crashes out on me. But where are we at here? Back on. Yep, there we go. Now we're back. So imagine if I had a horrible workflow on my electric guitar. Workflow, meaning that the inputs and outputs. How I define workflow is inputs and outputs. How quickly can I think of something and make an input to generate an output? That is how I define workflow. By using that same definition of workflow, the flow of the work that I'm doing, I think of something and then I do it. That's workflow. Imagine if my workflow is poor on the guitar. I could play these technical riffs and go absolutely crazy, but if my workflow was poor, I knew exactly what notes to hit, and I knew exactly what fret to hit, and I knew exactly when it should happen. But if my workflow is poor and I couldn't actually hit the notes when I wanted to, because the actual workflow, I didn't practice the left hand and the right hand and making sure that they're actually working together, I'm not going to play the guitar. I could know in my head exactly what needs to happen, but if I can't actually articulate that well enough to perform that on the instrument, I'm not a guitar player. I just know how to play guitar, but I'm not truly a guitar player. It's the same thing inside of your DAW. Your workflow is that important, and I cannot stress it enough. So focus on your workflow. I do a couple things. One is I want to make sure that my hands never leave the keyboard or the mouse. And if that's you, by all means, go for it. That doesn't have to be everybody. There's different people out there. Like I said, some people are going to like the Raven. They're going to like the fader ports. They're going to like the UC1s. That's fine. Just keep in mind that like that's your workflow now, and make sure that you're optimizing for that workflow if that's the workflow that you prefer. So I like to kind of make sure that my hands never leave the keyboard and the mouse, at least me specifically. I don't want to be clicking around and being confused and fighting and messing around with stuff. The second thing is I have a 3-click rule. If something takes me more than 3 clicks, cut it out. We eliminate, automate, or delegate. That's the 3 rules. So I learned this from a book called The 4-Hour Workweek, which talks about elimination, automation, and delegation. Essentially, like if you need to cut something out of your life, and specifically if you need to cut something out of the horrible workflows that you have, either you eliminate it. So there's some things that people do that they could just eliminate. For example, I knew this guy that would go through and he would phase align everything. He had this plugin that would automatically phase align all of his tracks. And a lot of that stuff just didn't need to happen. A lot of the stuff he already had was recorded well and didn't need to phase align. He was just doing it just because. So that was something he could eliminate from his workflow. The second thing is automation. For example, one of the most common things that we'll do is we'll do some vocal riding going on. So if something gets loud in the vocals, I don't have any vocals in this track, but I'll use this as an example. So if something gets quieter during this section, something gets louder during this section, what a lot of people will do is they'll go in and maybe they'll make a cut here, and then they'll go in and then they'll adjust the gain for the specific section. So they'll kind of clip gain things, or maybe they'll even add some automation specifically. So they'll create an automation lane and they'll create it for volume, and then they'll actually, maybe adjust the volume up during that section and then back down during another section, right? So there's multiple different ways of doing this, but that is one of the things that people will do. And this is something that is actually somewhat necessary, specifically on vocals where they're super dynamic, but you can automate it using plugins like Vocal Writer, for example. And so it actually goes through and it automatically rides the fader, and it can even write automation for you, which is really cool. So that is essentially automation. So we have elimination. Are you doing something that you need to cut out entirely? Or automation. Can you automate the process and fix that process? And then delegation. At some point in time, there's stuff that you still have to do that you really don't want to do. You can hire somebody else out for that specific thing. That's actually what happens in a lot of cases with interns. Interns will then intern at a studio, and they'll do all of the work that the main guy doesn't want to do. Trust me, I know. And so they'll be like, hey, go ahead and edit these vocals, and editing vocals just sucks. And so they'll send all of the vocal editing process off to the interns to have them do all the work that just kind of sucks. So you have elimination. Are you doing something that you need to just eliminate from your workflow entirely? Can you automate something that can't be eliminated by using Vocal Writer? Another great example would be Vocal Line. Love Vocal Line. Vocal Line will then listen to something, capture, and then you can then capture a dub, and it'll automatically time align it, and it'll even match pitch and match timing. So not just matching the timing, match the pitch as well, which I think is really cool. And so that's another automation plugin, something that's necessary. We want to time align and pitch our vocals, but this is something that can kind of automate the process and make our lives a lot easier. And then finally, we have delegation. Send it off to somebody else. So before I get into whether I should eliminate it, automate it, or delegate it, I get into what is the 3-click rule? Is it taking me more than 3 clicks to make this happen? And this is one of the main reasons I love Studio One. Inside of Studio One, if you come up here, there's this section that kind of looks like a robot. It's just this little, it's whatever this thing is. You can click on that, and it'll show you a lot of different macros that you have up here. And if you come over here to audio editing, there's music editing and explore macros, lots of different types of macros. Lots of other DAWs have macros. I believe Cubase does. I know for a fact that Reaper does. Reaper actually has a more robust option for macros, but macros basically means anything that can be an action inside of the DAW can then be automated. So for example, I could edit event, decrease volume by 3 dB, and it automatically just did that. decreased it by 3 dB just by clicking that. I can normalize and then put all peaks at -12. This is something that's pretty common as well. So I can normalize and put the peaks at 12. And so it did that just by a single click, which I think is really cool. And so that is something that would take me multiple clicks, and I can do that all here. If you go to Studio Pro or Studio One, if you're using an older version, and then you go to Macro Organizer, you can create some of your own macros. For example, so I have a hotkey called Add Virtual Mix Rack. This is Control-3. That is a shortcut. This macro, if I go here and I press Control-3, it adds Virtual Mix Rack instantly. So whatever channel that I've selected, all I got to do is press Control and 3, and it'll automatically add that plugin and open it up for me with the default preset, which is really cool. That is a workflow hack that I just absolutely love, and that's only something that's available inside of DAWs that have options for macros. Workflow is crucial. I just went Control-3. It automatically opened one of the most popular plugins that I'm going to use. Control-1 opens up an EQ. Control-2 opens up a standard compressor. Control-3 will open up a channel strip plugin of my choosing, which specifically is Virtual Mix Rack, which I love. And it opens up the default preset. Sometimes I'll use the default preset. Sometimes I won't. I'll just go through and click around and stuff. But it's there. It automatically adds it to the channel that's selected and opens it up for me. That is something that would take a few clicks. So I'd go over here. I'd click the plus icon. I then have to come up here, and either I would type it in. So now I'm leaving my hand. My hand is now leaving the mouse to go over to the keyboard to type it in. Or I have to go down through here, and I have to click Slate Digital, and then I have to scroll, and I have to find Virtual Mix Rack and then click it, and then there it is. That's just a pain in the butt. That takes, I get it, it's not that much, but it does take a few seconds, and those few seconds adds up over time and will hold you back. And even an extra pro tip, if you make the default preset something you use constantly or a channel strip that you use constantly, that's even better. I use the distressor all the time. It's one of my most used compressors of all time. And so having it in the default chain, the default strip, is nice, because then as soon as I load it, it's instantly there, and I have my compression that I need, I have my EQ that I need, I have some saturation if I need it, here and here, and it just works well. Workflow is crucial. Once again, like I said before, workflow on my guitar, if I didn't have it, would be, like, I wouldn't be able to play it. Like, I can make some notes, but I would sound like a horrible guitar player. And that's the same thing inside of the DAW. All right. I want to hit a couple more questions, and then I am heading off to bed. What do you guys, do you guys enjoy the live streams? Do you enjoy the fact that I do the live streams? I just want to make sure. Because, yeah, I like to do the live streams and then, like, kind of chop them up later for, like, the long form videos. But, if this is something that you guys don't like, I can just record these privately and then just, like, chop them up for the long form videos later. But I thought, like, why not just actually, like, hang out with you guys and share some of that stuff. Just joined Dylan Music 05. Good to see you. Get some more Diet Coke over here. That's my weakness. I love a good Diet Coke. And dumping it into a mason jar with ice is the way to go. Although my ice is melted. It's all gone now. It's just the way that works. Michael, heck yeah. Awesome. Blacksaw Audio Clipper. I do like it. Yeah, Blacksaw Audio Clipper. Is it expensive? You guys are not going to believe this. Check this out. I just typed in BSA Clipper, and this is what it's showing me. Wall, 5-star cordless vapor something. That's not what I meant. Thank you. I meant this. Clipper, $60. Yeah, for a clipper that is kind of expensive. Especially considering that the Kilohertz clipper is free, and it's part of the Kilohertz Essentials. And I absolutely love this thing. Yep. It just I love it. Did we win the Loud Snort? Did we lose? We're not even sure which side we're on. Whatever that was about, everyone is still using clippers all over the productions, so here's ours. I love theirs. Theirs is great. I really do enjoy it. Awesome. All right. So just real quick recap. Because I'm heading off. I'm signing off. This date right here is tomorrow. March 28th. That is tomorrow. as of tomorrow night at midnight or 11:59 my time, I am closing down the doors to my one-on-one coaching program. If this is something that you're interested in, now is the time to book a call. You have to go ahead and book a call. It'll take you to this page, and then you have to apply. By the way, it's with me. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I'm going to ask you what your name is, your email, what country you're from, whether you're making your first song or your next song, a link to some of your music if you have any, and then a phone number to text you about the reminders from the thing. And then I only coach people that are over the age of 18. It's very simple, but you have to fill out this application, and you have to pick a time to talk, because I don't take on everybody. This is a one-on-one coaching program. I take my calls. I have really considered letting somebody else take the calls, because it does take a bit of my time, but I'm going to be the one that's working with you. So I want to make sure that you're actually a good fit for the program. This is more than just one-on-one coaching. There's a lot in this, but there's a community, and there's trainings that I've built, and there's lots of stuff. I've helped over 1,000 artists, specifically, once again, I'm working with rock and metal students. If you make rock or metal and your mixes don't sound as professional as you'd like, and you need help with that, and you want somebody to actually open up sessions with you and dive into stuff with you, by all means, go ahead, book a call. Links to that are down in the description below. Just take a look at what some of the people here are saying.
Oh, wow, yeah. Oh, it's like night and day.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
This is awesome. This explanation of this compressor just it makes total sense. The drums is I thought the drums sounded pretty good before, but just the compression made a big difference. And then the guitar, I'm gonna mess around with the EQ.
Yeah, so that's Jonathan. This is his song in his session, diving into his stuff with him, right? We have Gabriel over here, and we have. There's just so many. I've worked with so many people. There's so many videos here. Just go to the page, click the link down in the description below. Go to the page, go through, read some of the testimonials, see if this makes sense for you. Watch this short 4-minute video to see if this actually makes sense for you. If you are interested, you can book a call down in the description below. This is only for people who are making rock and metal and who want to improve in their music, and you want to actually get some music out there. You're sick and tired of sitting on a hard drive full of stuff. If you guys know, you know. By the way, if you ever hear somebody say, "Are you sitting on a hard drive full of songs?" AI probably wrote that. It drives me nuts. I see it all the time. If you're sitting on a hard drive full of songs, right? It's not your lack of talent. It's not this. It's this. It's this. It's this. If you're sitting on a hard drive full of songs, it's not this. It's this. It's just ChatGPT is taking over the world. I hate it. It is what it is. I have a love-hate relationship with AI. But nevertheless, if you're interested and you want to work with somebody who is not AI, and you don't want to be pushed through some nonsense course or through some nonsense YouTube videos, because to be honest, if videos were enough, you'd be there already. There's so much information on the internet. It's insane. You need somebody to dive into sessions with you and kind of take a look at stuff. So if that's something that you're interested in, go ahead. You can book a call. If not, literally, once again, no hard feelings. I try to make as much content and live stream and do all this other stuff to help you guys out as much as you can. For those of you that want to go more and want to work with me directly one-on-one, you can go ahead. Links down in the description below, and we'll talk there. We'll see if you're a good fit. I don't take on everybody. I say no to about 30-ish% of people that get on the phone with me, because sometimes people just aren't quite ready for something like that yet. So we got to see if you're a good fit, because I am going to be working with you directly. But once again, just a reminder, enrollment closes tomorrow. If you do not have your call booked by tomorrow, you will not be able to get it. If you can book it, if you go to click the booking link and it's, in the middle of next week, you're fine. But you have to have your call in by tomorrow. It has to be on the books by tomorrow, or else you're going to miss out. And yeah, I don't want you to miss out. All right. Dylan, Music 05. AI bubble about to burst, though. I know. RAM prices are going to go down. Google AI has RAM usage. There's based on recent 2026 developments. I gotta share this with you guys, for those of you guys that are also concerned about the AI crisis that's going on with RAM and stuff like that. 2026 developments. Google AI significantly improved RAM usage efficiency. Google introduced new AI compression algorithm called TurboQuant, which is essentially designed to reduce the memory footprint of large language models, or LLMs. by at least 6 times while simultaneously increasing processing speed up by 8 times. So essentially, 8x the ability to process things, and like if I'm understanding this right. Am I understanding this right? Hang on. 6 times increasing the processing speed up by 8%, while reducing the memory footprint by 6x. So if it required 100 gigabytes before, it's going to require like 6 times less than that, while also increasing the speed by 8x, which I think is kind of cool. So hopefully this information gets out pretty quickly and gets shared with everything else, and a lot of people start adopting this, so that way our RAM prices can go down. The RAM in my system is ridiculous right now. RAM prices are insane. A set of Corsair, this is disgusting. This is disgusting. A set, $1,094 for a set of 60. Like, this is the kit that's currently in. Well, no. I don't have the Corsair Vengeance. But yeah, the kit that's in my system. I have 64 gigs of RAM right now, and it was like $300 back when I did it. And it's $1,000 now. It's insanity. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, it's getting really hard to recommend building your own Windows PC, especially when things like the Neo recently came out from Apple. The Mac Neo, I get that it only has 8 gigabytes of RAM, but I know, like, I've tested this thing, and it actually works really well for music production. The fact that it's a laptop for $600 or $499 if you're a student, which is crazy. It's just absolutely insanity to me. All right, let me hit a couple more questions in the chat. CDub47, yes, super good content. Learned a lot. Awesome. I'm glad you're here. The Mixwave J Wormbig kit has my new favorite drum kit. I'm gonna have to check. I got to get into some more Mixwave stuff. Dylan, Music 05. Question: for vocals, I use a like 5 plugins. I use a like 5 plugins in the vocal bus: EQ, Silk Vocal by Waves, Vocal Menace, and FET76 bring Universal Audio and DSR. Is it good or not? Dylan, great question. It has a lot to do, like, does it sound good? If it sounds good, it is good. And I know that's kind of that answer is like, I don't know. Like, if it sounds good, it is good. But the chain does matter, specifically on the genre that you're in. So if you are doing something that's more ballad kind of stuff, you know, maybe you have a little bit too much processing going on over there. Oh, dude, you're good for the spelling errors. But if you're doing something that's more aggressive, then in that case, you're probably going to want to use like an 1176, for example. Like, once again, like using the FET76. The FET76 is an 1176, and that's what it's modeled after. The 1176 is a FET style compressor. So that's essentially what that means. So yeah, that's totally up to you on how you want to manage that out. If it sounds good, it is good. But above all else, there is the general rule of thumb, which is when we're mixing vocals, or really just anything in general, we go off the what I call the 3 sisters. We have compression, we have saturation, and then we have EQ. And not necessarily in that order, but that's what we're using. We're using compression, saturation, and EQ. Everything else is like time-based effects like reverbs and delays. When it comes to getting your vocals to sit in, or really anything to sit in, guitars, bass, drums, or anything else, it's going to be boiling down to compression, saturation, and EQ. And I learned this thing, the 3 sisters gardening technique. Let me actually pull this up, because I think this is helpful. If I can actually find out. Yeah, that'll work. Copy image. Let me pull it over here. Now that one looks bad. Let's pull in another one that actually doesn't look nearly as bad. All right, copy image. Let's bring it over here. And corns, beans, and squash. This is a gardening technique that the Native Americans figured out, where if they grew corn, beans, and squash all in the same area, they all would perform better on their own, or they all would perform better together than they would have on their own. This is mind-blowing because corn, it will take nitrogen out of the soil, beans will put nitrogen back into the soil, and squash will put a nice ground covering over top. The corn grows up nice and tall. The beans need something nice and tall to grow onto. So all together, they would plant these together, and all together, they would perform better together than they would have on their own. They all worked together. The corn would take nitrogen out of the soil and create this nice tall thing for the beans to climb on. The beans would put nitrogen back into the soil and would grow up the stalk, and then the squash would keep things down and keep the weeds down. It's the same thing inside of our DAWs. When it comes to compression, EQ, and saturation. So compression, compression is a lot like the squash. It is squashing down any of the peaks that are happening across, keeping the weeds down, essentially. And then we have EQ. EQ is a lot like the corn. It is giving something nice and tall to stand on. We're cleaning things up. We're giving this nice tall thing to stand on. So we're cleaning up any of the mud and pulling nitrogen, pulling frequencies out of the song, pulling nitrogen out of the soil. And then we have saturation, which is adding nitrogen back into the soil, essentially like our beans, right? Reset the old camera again, because at this point in time, why not? The longer I hang out with you guys, the more I got to reset this camera. It just starts to overheat a little bit. Oh, we're all right, though. Now, hey, fluid motions now. We're looking good. All right. And so compression will keep things down. EQ will clean things up and pull things out of the frequencies. And then saturation will then add some frequencies back in. And so altogether, compression, EQ, and saturation will create this really nice, lush kind of sound that you can get when you actually start compressing your vocals. And really, or when you start mixing your vocals, and really with anything at all. When it comes to electric guitars, for example, let's take a listen to these electric guitars. I haven't mixed these at all. So let me go ahead, let me grab a channel strip plugin, and let me go ahead and grab some EQ. So let me clean up some things with the EQ first. So I've taken a little bit of that 400 hertz out and just a bit of 6K or 4K. That it's just a little bit too much, in my opinion. So then I'm going to go over, and since I clean things up, essentially the corn analogy, I'm then going to go ahead and add in some extra harmonics that's going on here. So without the EQ and the saturation, let's take a listen to what these guitars sound like. After EQ. And then after saturation. And then I can go ahead and I can add in some dynamics. And specifically, I'm going to use a 1176. I'm going to put it at a 20-1 and just get a little bit of gain reduction overall. So EQ, saturation, and compression. With it off. On. And then in the context of the mix. So just a little bit goes a long ways. EQ, saturation, and compression. Those are the core tools, the core three tools that you're going to use literally all the time. And so I highly, highly recommend just learning how, one really good EQ, one really good saturator, one really good compressor, and just leaning all in on that. Every single plugin that isn't one of these three is probably one of these three deep down inside. A great example of that would be Infected Mushroom Pusher. Infected Mushroom Pusher from Waves is awesome. There's the magic knob, like it's doing so much stuff in the magic, right? And then it's got dynamic punch, like what's all this stuff that's going on? It's got clipping, right? It's got all this stuff. Really, at the end of the day, clipping is a form of saturation. It is clipping the transients. It's slightly different, but it does act in a somewhat similar way, and saturation will clip a signal. You have your magic knob here, which in my opinion is adding a bit of saturation, the dynamic punch, which is adding a bit of compression, and you have your highs and your lows, which is adding some EQ. And so even though this plugin looks like it's magic, it sounds like it's magic, really what it's doing is it's doing these three. Just at different levels. I'm not saying there isn't any value here. For sure, there's a lot of value here, and I love the fact that we have plugins like this that can create that kind of value because it's super easy to do. You can open up one plugin, and you can just grab a couple knobs, and you can make some twists, and it works really well. I like it. But overall, it's essentially doing some compression, some EQ, and some saturation. And if you just pick one EQ to learn, one saturation plugin to learn, and one compressor to learn, you're going to be good. If it was up to me, what I would do, if you were like, okay, which one do I pick? I would grab an SSL EQ. I would learn an SSL EQ. I would just spend all of my time on some sort of SSL EQ. The saturation plugin that I would use, I really love London by from Slate Digital on Virtual Mix Rack, but really, there's tons of different type of saturation plugins. Decapitator is another great one. I also like X Saturator. X Saturator from Waves. Love X Saturator. X Saturator from Slate. It's in the Slate Access Pass, but it's SSL. My bad. I love the X Saturator from SSL. I think it's really solid. I really like this thing, especially since you have the control over the second and third harmonics. Distressor is another really good option that I recommend as well. And then when it comes to the compressor, if you can, my guy, just learn a distressor. The reason why I like the distressor is because you have 1-to-1, which is no compression, all the way up to a nuke setting, which is essentially like limiting. You have distortion circuits on here, which has built-in saturation, which is pretty cool. You have even order harmonics on distortion circuit 2 and odd order harmonics on distortion circuit 3, which is really cool. And then you have a lot of control over the attack and release. You can go so slow or so fast with the attack and release, way more control than you could on any 1176 or LA2A, for example. LA2As don't even have an option for attack and release. And so if I had to build out the ultimate chain, it would be an SSL EQ, it would be a distressor, compressor, and then I would use some sort of tube type saturation, and that would be like my go-to chain, and I would use it all the time. That's what I do. I essentially use these three plugins all the time. You don't have to use these three, but understand that it's EQ, saturation, and compression, and the more you know them, the better you know them, the better your mixes are going to be. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm going to go to bed. It is way too late for me. It is 11:30, and usually I'm sleeping well before then. Well before then. I'm usually sleeping by like 9:30 every night, but my wife is gone, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go play with some Red Dead Redemption, and then I decided to hang out with you guys, and you guys are cooler. All right. Let me hit another couple comments here before I head off, because I want to make sure that you guys understand that this is live. I'm not just like recording and just walking away. A stick hitting a wall is mix ready. Aren't all plugins technically mix ready? Yeah. I find that marketing to be annoying. Yeah, Michael, they use the term for marketing. Hilarious. All right, have a good sleep, Dylan. Music 05. Dylan, appreciate your comments tonight. Michael as well. CDub47, and when Russ was here as well, appreciate it as well. Spasmatic. You guys are awesome. DE5403. Just want to make sure that I'm hitting everybody that was here live. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate that you're hanging out with me live. I usually record these kind of videos like buried in my studio with nothing else. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. It's been fun, and we'll all see you very soon. And I need to get a new camera so this glitchiness stops happening. It's so annoying. If any of you guys know what's going on with this, please let me know in the comments. It's driving me insane. I can't take it anymore. I have to like restart my camera every time. I'm like wondering if the frame rates are getting out of sync. I wonder if that's the issue. But like I turn the camera off and turn it back on, it fixes it every time. Like if I fixed it half the time, I'd say it was the frame rate like getting messed up. I genuinely don't know what's going on.